Seahawks Today is presented by PrizePicks, and we have new Week 1 opponent rumors. I felt pretty confident in last night's video that it was going to be the Chicago Bears. Then Kirk Minahan and New England Patriots, we're going to loosely say insider, is now claiming that it's going to be the Seahawks versus the Patriots on that September 9th Wednesday season opener. Is he right? Is he wrong? We'll discuss. Do we trust Kirk Minahan? That's what we're going to start off today's show with, because he is someone that can be a bit of a troll from time to time. Now, I like Kirk. I also understand what he is and what his content can be. It can be a little bit wild. It can be a little bit crazy. And so I'm going to try and get to the bottom of, is he trolling us or does he actually have inside sources? We're also on today's show going to talk about a new stadium that could be coming the Seahawks' way, because at least according to ESPN's Seth Wickersham, feels like that could be something that the new owner is interested in. Make sure that you ring the notification bell. Never miss any Seattle Seahawks news ever again. There's going to be a lot of things flowing this week, specifically with NFL schedule drops. Whenever there is a drop on who the Seattle Seahawks will end up playing, we'll make sure that we get some sort of video out to you on the channel. So if you set your notifications on, you join our Noti gang, you're going to make sure that you never miss out on any of that news. All right, so let's ask ourselves, why should we trust Kirk? Why could Kirk Minahan be correct here on this rumor? Well, he's someone that's worked in Boston for quite a long time. He has a great Boston accent. He worked really closely with the Odyssey station out there in New England, which had strong ties with the New England Patriots. So Kirk Minahan is someone who has ties into that organization and has broken news before. He's also at the same time used that type of background to troll people. Kirk Minahan is someone who likes to, let's just say, poke the bear, if you will. So there's a reason that Kirk could be lying here. He could have looked at this as an opportunity to use his clout, use his fame, use his background as being a New England sports reporter or sports radio host, and hey, if I put something out there, it's going to get a ton of engagement, a ton of interaction, and it's going to draw up a Twitter storm. Kirk is not someone that feels like everything he puts out needs to be 100% factual. Kirk is not afraid to play the troll game. In fact, he kind of likes it. If you've seen any of his content with Barstool, you kind of know, hey man, that guy likes to make things a little interesting. So at the end of the day, here's my take on it. I think that Kirk is in a spot where we have to, at the very least, give this a side-eye glance. It seems pretty obvious to me that the Seahawks are going to play in that season opener either the Chicago Bears or the New England Patriots. The other teams don't make really that much sense, except for the Kansas City Chiefs, although their owner has already kind of said it's not going to happen. I am going to take this with a grain of salt. Not because I don't think that Kirk could be telling the truth, but because I don't have enough backing to fully buy into Kirk Minahan here. This isn't an Adam Schefter report. If Adam Schefter said the Seahawks were going to play the New England Patriots, that's the video, and I'm going to break down that entire matchup on the channel. Because it's Kirk Minahan, you kind of have to look at it and go, all right, maybe there's some legs here, but maybe there isn't. You got to do some due diligence. You don't want to get Nigerian Prince scammed, right? Will the Seahawks play the Patriots in Week 1 of the 2026 NFL season? Let me know your prediction down below in the comment section. Yes or no. Very interested in hearing what you have to say. Are you a believer in Kirk, or are you a little bit different there? Next, the rest of the show, we're going to be talking about the latest ESPN report from Seth Wickersham on the Seahawks potentially going out and getting a new stadium. Do the Seahawks need it? Why would they go get a new stadium? We're going to answer all those questions here in just a moment. But first, I need to let you know that today's show is made possible by PrizePicks. PrizePicks is America's #1 sports picks app and is the best place to win cash while watching sports. With playoff basketball finally here, there's no better time to cash in than with our friends at PrizePicks. And I'll tell you this, the app is really easy to use. To qualify for a PrizePicks lineup, pick 2 to 6 players and select more or less on stat projections, including points, rebounds, assists, three-pointers, hits, home runs, and strikeouts, and several others across all sports. With the new social feeds feature, you can share PrizePicks with your friends and copy lineups with a single click. That, of course, includes me and producer Searle. You follow us on PrizePicks and get the picks before they even get posted on the show. I have a lineup for the basketball action going on later on this evening. Anthony Edwards, more on his points. Victor Wembanyama, more on his rebounds. New user offer. Download the PrizePicks app today and use code HMA when you play your first $5 lineup to receive $50 in lineups. That's code HMA when you play your first $5 lineup to get an extra $50 in lineups with PrizePicks. Clickable link to download the app is in the comments and description. So ESPN's Seth Wickersham kind of dropped a bomb on us on Friday when he released an article that there was a potential for a new owner to want to come in and build a new stadium. Now, the whole article was more so about the ownership process, but he had this to say, and it's clearly been a major talking point for most people in Seattle. The Seahawks might also need a new stadium in the coming years. While a new venue could open up additional revenue in the long term, the politics and costs could be a fight in the short term. So that was a reason why the potential bid for the Seattle Seahawks, or the potential final price for the Seattle Seahawks, is looking to be a little bit lower. There were rumors that it was going to exceed $10 billion, and it does feel like now, at least from experts in that field like Wickersham, that are reporting that number is going to be closer to like a $9 billion mark. Now, Wickersham ended up going on Seattle Sports. I believe he was on with Brock Heward and, of course, Mike Salk. And so he kind of went into a deeper discussion on it with them on their last radio show. Wickersham had this to say on Lumen Field and why a new owner might want a new stadium. In this specific case, one of the ancillary costs as they're looking out there is the cost of a new stadium. I think that shocked a lot of people when I wrote that in the story because obviously Seattle's got a great stadium and they have a great home field advantage. But stadiums that were built around that time, and you can argue the pros and cons of an arms race as it goes to stadiums, but those are starting to come due. So let's go through some quick facts here about Lumen Field. It was built in 2002. And while to you that might not seem like that crazy of a time, 2002 babies are, 24 years old right now? So they're able to buy a beer pretty easily whenever they go to the bar, right? That fact right there kind of blew my mind. I'm also 10 years removed from high school, so my 10-year reunion just got sent in my email. That made my feelings get hurt. Right now, Lumen Field, it seats 68,000, 127 suites, and 50 concession stands, 40 beer stands as well. Now, those numbers are very good compared to what Lumen Field was compared to the Kingdome, right? But when you look at the Kingdome, that was honestly kind of a dump from everything that I've heard about it from my parents, my uncles, and anyone who really went to the Kingdome. Obviously, I didn't go to the Kingdome. I would have been 5 years old when Lumen Stadium was built. I barely even remember the Seahawks playing at Husky Stadium, right? When you also look at the new stadium or the potential for a new stadium, it's about the same timeline as when the Kingdome got torn down. Kingdome was up for about 24 years. Right now, you're looking at Lumen Field. It's been up for about 24 years. In my personal opinion, I don't know that I believe that Seattle needs a new stadium. I think that the new stadium is really good. Seattle went through the process to build a stadium like Lumen Field that would be there for years and years and years to come. But there is also some added pressure right now on different reasons why a new owner might want to come in and build a new stadium. There are different ways for them to help increase their revenue, and we're also seeing this big arms race like Wickersham was talking about when it comes to stadiums. More and more and more new stadiums are being built very quickly around the National Football League and really in all sports because it just feels like there are new ways to tap into revenue by having the most up-to-date stadium that you could possibly have. Now, I still say that Seattle doesn't need a new stadium. Do you agree with me? Let me know down below in the comment section, yes or no. I know a lot of Seahawks fans have said Seattle doesn't really need a new stadium. I know a lot of the Seattle Seahawks experts have said that the Seahawks do not need a new stadium, but that doesn't mean that they are completely aligned with you. So do you agree with me and the experts, or do you disagree? Let me know down below in the comment section. If you like Lumen Stadium, you love your Seahawks, hit that thumbs up button while you're coming back up to this video. So one of the reasons why a new stadium could be coming that Wickersham kind of touches on. Denver is already getting a new stadium. Now, I know a lot of you might say, well, who cares that Denver's getting a new stadium? They're not the Seattle Seahawks. But you have to remember that in Power Field at Mile High, it was built essentially at the same time that the Seahawks stadium was built. So when you look at Lumen Field compared to Empower, well, okay, they're probably on the same type of timetable when it comes to erosion or need for upkeep. Now, I would make the argument that Seattle has done a much better job of taking care of their stadium than potentially Denver, but I'm also super biased in this mark. It's also a situation where Denver could just be saying, we want a new stadium. We don't need a new stadium. We want a new stadium to find different ways to make money, where Seattle could look at it and say, our stadium's doing a good job. We're perfectly okay right now. Could be one of those situations where, hey, I don't need to have a bunch of work done on myself because I still look beautiful. Next, let's look at a reason why the ownership might want a new stadium. Right now, the world revolves around money. If I've learned anything in my short, albeit very fruitful 28 years of life, it's that at the end of the day, everyone has a price. At the end of the day, you can sit here and say, I don't need X amount of money. I don't need X amount of money. I don't need X amount of money. And then that amount of money gets put on the table before you, and you go, oh, well, this is how much my life gets easier. My life would get so much easier with this amount of money. I can't tell you how many times I've been on a walk with a special lady friend, and I said, oh, if I just had just a little bit more money, we'd be able to go on that vacation. If I had just a little bit more money, we'd have a nicer apartment. If I had just a little bit more money, we'd be able to go to a nicer dinner reservation. And a new owner could be looking at this stadium and say, hey, I'm going to lose money on the short term, but on the long term, I'm going to get just a little bit more money, just a little bit more money, and that could lead to more revenue in my pocket. Here's what Wickersham had to say on why that money could be important for the new owner. I think a lot of it is the new revenue. And I think when you're a new owner and you're paying all this money and you buy this team, the NFL is obviously like they distribute revenue. Only local revenue is separate and it's different. And a new stadium has the potential to bring in ancillary and maybe even vast new revenue streams that the owners would mostly benefit from. And I think that's it. Now, personally, this seems a little bit greedy to me, right? It feels like a new owner is saying, well, I'm putting a bunch of money out, and instead of being patient, I'm going to go find a way to grab even more money. And I understand why there's a lot of people who aren't the ones who are going to be footing the bill and who are the ones who are going to be upset because ticket prices just gone up or beer prices just went up or hot dog prices just went up, whatever you pay for. They're going to say, well, this seems greedy to me. But if I am going to play devil's advocate, which I've decided to do just right now, I understand where the ownership is coming from. Because if you can just make 1% more year after year after year, it'll be incredible of how much more money you have earned over your time. And it wouldn't shock me if a new owner came into Seattle and said, hey, I could get a 70,000 seat stadium. I can add in and then now have 150 suites as opposed to 127. And I can add in even more concession stands and more concession revenue that'll come in that way. Those are money, or those are dollars, I should say, that they don't necessarily have to share in a revenue setting, right? When it comes to a TV deal, all of the NFL owners share in that revenue. They don't necessarily have to share in the revenue that's gotten to them through their stadium. That's why it's important for those teams to sell out every single time they have a home game, because that's more money back into the owner's pocket. Well, if you are able to sell out because the team's good and find a way to add more seats, add more suites, add more things that you can jack up prices on, well, then more of that money is coming back to the owner, and they can recoup the money that they spent buying the team and building the new stadium faster. The last reason why a new ownership group might want a new stadium is because they might want a Super Bowl. And right now, the problem with Lumen Field is there will never, ever, 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 ever be a Super Bowl in Seattle. Sorry, I don't mean to hurt your feelings on it. When you look at Seattle, what does it do in February? It effing rains. And right now, the NFL doesn't want to have their Super Bowl potentially skewed because of a rainstorm and a team unable to throw the football. They want it in a nice sunny area where Roger Goodell can go and suntan, while all of the other NFL media can run around and have a good time in the city, and then the game is not hamstrung by weather. And so Seth Wickersham had this to say on why Seattle could be going back to a dome. I do think that a roof, you can't rule it out. I mean, I think that as the NFL is looking to expand host cities for Super Bowls, Seattle could certainly be in that mix. Now, this is me opinioning. I don't have reporting on that, but I think that the one of Denver's goals with the new stadium would be to host big events, including the Super Bowl. And I could see the same for Seattle, only they would probably want it covered. I don't see a world where Seattle ever gets a Super Bowl, even with a dome. There's too much of a national perspective on Seattle that if we go there in February, it's going to be rainy, it's going to be wet, it's going to be nasty, and we're not going to be able to move around and do the events that the NFL likes to do around the Super Bowl. In my personal opinion, that's lame and lazy by the NFL because Seattle is a great city. There's a ton of different places that you can go and see, but I would make the agreement that the timing isn't great. We've seen the Super Bowl go to cold weather cities with domes before, but we also haven't seen them really go back all that often. Minnesota had one, right? We know that Michigan and Detroit had one. We know that there have been other cold cities that have had these types of Super Bowls. But really what the NFL wants to do is they want to go to Vegas. They want to go to Florida. They want to go to warm weather places. And so I think even if a dome gets put in, I don't know that gets you a Super Bowl. Maybe it gets you an NFL draft, but are we really building a new stadium just to get an NFL draft? I think that would be pretty lame. If there is any news on a new stadium being built, make sure that you have your notifications on because we'll have a video out immediately on it. We're going to have a ton of video content, I guarantee it, throughout this summer on what this sale is going to look like. It's going to constantly be coming. Now, I'm not saying it's every single week, but it's certainly going to be something that we're talking about on multiple videos every single month. There's going to be news. There's going to be rumors. There's going to be all kinds of stories. That's why you have your notifications on so you never miss a video that we have. If it's your first time hanging out with us, hit that subscribe button. We talk about the Seahawks every single day, multiple times a day, and you don't want to miss out on any of that coverage. Thank you guys so much for viewing today's video. I cannot wait to see you next time.